Patriotic Millionaires. He's also chairman at Newmark Grub Knight Frank. He joins us from New York. Jeff, good to have you. Good morning.
Thanks. Good
How
morning.
did this all get started?
Well, I was called by some people and asked if I would join the organization, and frankly, I readily agreed. I think that wealthy Americans have done very well in the last dozen years with the tax policy of the Bush administration, and it's clear that we have huge deficits and that it's time for compromise, and for us on the wealthy side to compromise by paying higher taxes in exchange for lower cuts in government spending. So I'm not just advocating raising taxes, but we need a balanced approach, and the Republicans seem to be dead set against raising taxes on wealthy people, and that's just ridiculous. And to put us over the fiscal cliff for that reason, it just seems to me, frankly, to be honest, I think the biggest problem we have is Grover Norquist. I think all of the Republicans have signed this pledge not to raise taxes, and he's made it clear that if they vote to raise taxes, he's going to take action to defeat them in a primary in 2 years. So
right.
No one elected Grover Norquist. I think we just had an election. I was shocked. I heard this morning that actually Mitt got 2 million less votes than John McCain, which no one would have thought. The election wasn't all that close.
Turnout was obviously different than 08, but your point's well taken, and we're looking at a picture of Grover. You know, we had over the weekend Bill Kristol, another influential voice on the GOP side, say on Fox, I don't understand why Republicans just don't take the president's offer. Are they really going to defend millionaires, half of whom voted Democrat and half of whom live in Hollywood? Those are Kristol's views. I wonder if you think the Norquists of the world are getting marginalized here.
I certainly hope so. He wasn't elected to anything. And look, you can talk to wealthy people. No one wants to pay more taxes. But believe me, we don't get out of bed in the morning and try to figure out what our tax rate is and decide whether we're going to go to work or not. We go to work because that's what we do. I also think the Democrats have to compromise on entitlements. I don't see why they can't raise the retirement age for people who are maybe younger than 40, Medicare. Everything has to be on the table. And when you hear Boehner say that raising taxes is a non-starter, as an American who realizes that going off the fiscal cliff would be a disaster, I think that's crazy. And I would hope that the wealthy people like myself would reach out to the Republicans and say, look, if we have to pay higher taxes, so be it, as long as it's tied into reforms on Medicaid, Social Security, and other cuts. I know the president, his plan when I was in Washington recently was $1 of revenue for $2.50 in spending cuts, and that seems like a plan. And Jeff, I think we got to stick to that.
Is the group taking a stand on either what level of income should see tax rates rise? How much? I mean, you mentioned the ratio just now. I mean, are you taking a official stance behind any of those metrics? How rich is rich in this country?
Look, we all agree that if you live in New York, I've heard the argument that making $250,000 doesn't make you rich. But on the other hand, we've seen a tragedy here in New York. I own the Meadowlands racetrack, and I have 70 people living there who came from North Carolina, and they're cooking the meals that the Red Cross serves. I asked them how long they're going to stay. They said as long as they're needed. Everybody has to sacrifice. Yeah. We see people in the National Guard that have been called up over and over and over again. It's time that Americans come together. We all sacrifice. If someone who makes $250,000 has to find $10,000 extra, they'll find it. And you don't see a lot of foreclosures of wealthy people's homes. And I know you know this. In New York, if you go into a fancy restaurant, they're all crowded. So wealthy people are doing fine. It's the middle class that's really hurting. And it's time that we had an election. There was a proposal from the Republicans on the table not to raise taxes. That proposal lost decisively, and it's time to support the president and do the right thing here and not tinker. If you're going to try to change the tax code, you can't do it in 2 weeks. And we've only got 2 or 3 weeks with Thanksgiving and Christmas.
True enough.
You know, we want to change the tax code. Let's look at it carefully next year, hold hearings, analyze it, but to try to make those changes quickly in 2 or 3 weeks, that's crazy and dangerous.
Jeff, I'm running out of time, but, you know, Speaker Boehner said on Friday, you're going to target, if you do this, you're going to target some entrepreneurs in the middle of the country who employ others, and the jobs will get caught in the crossfire. How is that not true?
Because what he's saying, he's right. Most people pass it through. So in other words, if you have a sub-S corp or an LLC, you're not taxed at the corporate level. You're taxed at the normal level. But let's face it, if a corporation, somebody owns a company that makes $250,000 of taxable profit, and they have to pay $10,000 more, it is what it is. How are we going to get this deficit under control? And believe me, that's not going to stop them from hiring people. They'll hire people if there's a demand for their product. And I think everyone would. I'll guarantee you that if we make a deal at the end of December, that you'll see the economy take off. Because we all have been worried. We want certainty. And we've all been worried about the uncertainty that's existed.
Jeff, always good to talk to you. Controversial position, but appreciate you coming on the show.
Well,